Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here. Welcome back to some breaking news for Mechwarrior and Piranha Games. This is actually a few days old, so I apologize, but, well, we were at the hospital having my son, so, well, deal with it. I'm a little bit sleep deprived right now and a little bit loopy, but we are back, so thank you again for all the wishes. Baby Berg number 2 is here. The Milk Goblin has returned. But regardless, we got some big news. I think that we're going to dive in here. I'm going to read what is posted. This is actually from NAD Global 7. For those that are unaware, EG7, I'll just refer to that from here on out, is the actual parent company to Piranha Games. They were bought out, I believe, last year sometime. I forget the specifics. Actually, maybe even 2023. Regardless, they own a multitude of actual studios, and this news dropped on January 10th. Now, with this also being said, PGI is not the only company. I believe Toadman got completely dissolved. And so just sort of keep that out there, that PGI is not the only company affected by EG7 undertaking business optimizations at one of its studios. That's the headline. I've seen some other articles, and we're going to dive into, again, we've heard from some staff already that have been affected by this. But in general, let's go ahead and dive in here, and I'm going to read this, and then I'm giving my opinions and thoughts, and we've got some other resources. So NAD Global 7, EG7 today announced an initiation of business optimization plan at Piranha Games, Piranha, as part of the group's ongoing efforts to ensure that all businesses units operate in a financially sound manner. This initiative follows an updated forecast for Piranha's latest project, Clans, which has performed below projections. The cost-saving measures are expected to result in annual savings of approximately $25.8 million, and that is in their currency, which I believe is around 2.3 or something million US dollars. Okay. The measures announced will ensure that Piranha continues to operate with a sound profitability while being able to ship new content and DLCs according to plan. The annual cost savings for Piranha will be approximately 2-something million and is expected to result in a non-recurring restructuring reserve of approximately 1.7 million, which is only like 100 some odd thousand. The optimization is expected to impact approximately 38 employees at Piranha and will be finalized by Q2. And quote, the team at Piranha truly delivered a high quality game that exceeded both internal as well as external expectations in terms of quality, story, and gameplay. Despite the phenomenal work by the team, Piranha, the game failed to reach new audiences and expand its core audiences as anticipated, and therefore has not met necessary sales targets, which has forced us to undertake necessary actions, said G. Ham, the CEO of EG7. Okay, there is a lot to talk about there, so let's go ahead and break this down here. So the TLDR on this is EG7 is cutting the fat. We've already heard from a few individuals. It says 38 individuals on this cut. I believe I heard that there was a previous cut prior or after launch of the game as well. I don't know all details about that, but I did hear there was already a small cut. And that is normal. Keep in mind, studios balloon up as they get closer to launch, right? And they usually let go of contractors or stuff like that they're not using. That's not the case in this. Senior level staff got let go with this along with others. So what they're basically talking about here, from my understanding, is, hey, you've got bloat as far as the team. The sales projections, you guys have performed below, so let's cut the fat, let's get rid of people, so that way your projections for the DLC, which they have good projections probably from Mercenaries, and they're looking at DLC. But first off, the first thing we're going to talk about is Clans did not perform well. Why? What are my thoughts on that? What do I think why it didn't? I think the first thing to talk about is the Game Pass. We don't know a whole lot of details about Piranha Games and Microsoft's license agreement. For those that don't know, Microsoft is the owner of the digital rights for games. And so Piranha Games has a license approximately till this year, 2025, some odd. I think there was some things in there that could expand that a little bit, but in 2025, they were going to be having to renew the license anyways with Microsoft. Well, that is my speculation of why we got Mechwarrior 5 Clans instead of Mechwarrior 6 clans. And I believe that is because there was legal precedence that they couldn't get another new license yet. They still had one, right? It's like, you wouldn't ask for another one when you already have one. It didn't do well. So why didn't it do well? Game Pass, I think is a big factor to that. Whatever the deal is for monetary, we don't know if it's 10%. We don't know any details behind the scenes except Microsoft and PGI, and we'll never know. That's always NDA stuff and business transactions. What we do know is that whatever the deal they have is the game has to be released on Game Pass. And then usually how Game Pass works is the DLCs you still have to pay for, even if it's on Game Pass. Well, you potentially have a huge impact on a loss of profit there because, a lot of people, I have Game Pass. I haven't even played anything on Game Pass, but I keep it up and operational. I think it's great value. And so factor in that. The other thing, why do I think sales were less outside of Game Pass? I think sales were less because this was not a open world, build your mercenary outfit. If you look at BattleTech mods like Rogue Tech and BTA, and then you look at Mercenary, Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries, they're all stuff that you can have replayability. And Clans is not that game. Clans is not a replayability thing. I mean, I think you'd get quite bored with it. It's literally a linear story. You can choose maybe this mission before this mission, but that's it. It's the same X you're shooting. Literally, there was no variation whatsoever. You have very limited as far as options, as far as expanding how you play the game. Right? We've had some patches. We had also, the other factor is they had a failed DLC. The DLC came out and I spoke up about it. I'm not the only one. I know some people were pointing the finger at me. I'm not the only one. You know what made the difference with the DLC and them refunding the DLC and it making it free? You guys, the guys that went on Steam and said, hey, we don't think paid, game mode should be behind a paywall. We don't think, the value is here for stuff that you used to do for free. You guys made the difference on that. I guarantee this impacted. Also, that delay in launch from September and October, we already knew that impacted sales and projections. We already knew that because in EG7's report previously, because they are a public company, they released all this, they had stated a loss of revenue just because of that month delay, right? And profit. So do I think this is a big deal? Yes, I do. Why do I think this is a big deal? One, you have employees that lost their jobs. That's not cool. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry that happened to you. That totally sucks. I'm not going to say more than that other than, I hope you can land something and move on past this. But we've heard staff of Krasdax, the only MWO map editor, he's gone. He made a public post on Reddit, and we have that right here. He says, dodged the first set of layoffs, but got hit by the second. And so obviously that is where I said there's been a previous set of layoffs. Mechwarrior 5 Clans was great, a game developed by a very talented team, but sales just weren't up to keep the studio at that size. It's a money in, money out situation, and the money just wasn't coming in. Again, I think Game Pass, I think the lack of replayability, and then I'll get into my third segment of why I don't think the game did well. I'm gutted, but honestly super excited to move into a new position in the future working on. I think I can take a break from big stompy robots and maybe move into fantasy or something. He says, thanks to Piranha Games for the opportunity. Russ Bullock was great, ran a great ship, and I have huge respect for anyone keeping a game studio for more than 20 years. Huge thanks to Paul anyway, and Thad. By the way, Paul was also let go. That is his LinkedIn has been updated, so I did confirm that's public information. Paul was an OG stock owner of Piranha Games before EG7 bought. Now, I don't know if Paul, his shares were sold. I'm assuming all that. So, I think he'll be all right, but he did get let go. So Paul is gone from Piranha Games. I don't know. And then also Darren, for those that are aware, Darren, my old NGNG partner, he has also been on the chopping block here. He will finish out this month as far as his role, but then he'll be leaving Piranha Games as well. So there's that for those. I've already reached out to him, so I think he'll be fine. But of course, my thoughts with anybody who got cut here. And Thad, who brought me in 2021 when I was really at rock bottom. They took a chance on me and my skills and helped me build a future for myself in the industry. Thanks to Matt Newman, who gave me the keys to the kingdom in terms of nearly complete creative control of the design of Mechwarrior Online maps. I got to really live out a lifelong goal of having my work be played by tens of thousands of people. Huge shout out to the players of Mechwarrior Online. Love you guys. Now, I've already reached out to Kraz on this. Again, huge respect. I know, we haven't always agreed in the past, and I apologize for some of my behavior there. But, I hope he lands on his feet and gets to do whatever he wants to do. I will agree. He's, especially this latest Luthien, I actually really like the map. Sucks too, because I wanted a few updates to it, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. That being said, with maps and Mechwarrior Online, Teos has already publicly stated that he will do his best to do little hot fixes, but he is limited as far as his knowledge, but he has stated that he's going to try to step up. So going back to EG7 and the stuff, I have a third thing that I think is the reason why Mechwarrior 5 Clans did not do well, and that is the game itself. I think a lot of people were able to watch influencers, streamers, content creators play the game. I think a lot of people didn't like the idea of a clan sort of driven and not open world, no replayability. I think a lot of people got to see that before their purchase. And I guarantee that had an impact. I don't think everybody wanted to play the clan side of things and see their perspective. And then along with that, I think the gameplay is very reminiscent of just basic mercs. So you have less options as a player to maneuver, move around and build a unit and do things and specialize and hire and fire and all that. You don't have any of that in clans. You're very limited in what you basically can do with loadouts. And again, we don't have mods yet, but I think they're coming in the future as far as I'm aware. So I think the game itself and the gameplay, being very, very narrow as far as focused, I would say in my personal opinion, the only redeeming quality about clans, if I'm just totally transparent, is just the story and the animations that we got to see. Outside of that, the game, I could see where it just didn't do well. It's sort of reflected in my review of it. It was like, it's okay. But without the replayability, I mean, I talk about this a lot. I'll ask, hey guys, in my Twitch chat, which by the way, I do stream on Twitch and YouTube now. So make sure to tune in. It is Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll have a link down below. Come interact. It's a great time. We get to interact live. You can ask questions. You can just watch some mech combat as well. But I'll ask multiple times throughout, a month, like, hey, how many hours do you have in Battletech? And I'll see numbers of 1,000 hours, 5,000 hours, 8,000 hours. And same thing with Mercs. How many hours do you have in Mercs? 1,000, 500, 1,500. I guarantee you the majority of people are not going to have that when it comes to clans. Now, you can say, well, that's mods, Phil. That's 100% true. We haven't seen the level of modding, even in Mercs, Mech 5 Mercs, that I think would have to have for clans. But anyways, I think the reality of it is PGI made a gamble on this. I think they elevated their game in as far as animations, storytelling, but nothing else was improved. The level design, the missions, again, everything I talked about in the review, the lack of replayability, the lack of movement, the lack of tactical options that you have as a clanner. It's a very, again, just follow the path and get to the end, and there it is. And I'm not really surprised that it did bad. Now, with this, I do have concerns about the future of Mechwarrior titles with Piranha Games, strictly just from a business standpoint. We know they're going to do it DLCs. With this cut, though, I don't know if it'll affect the DLC's quality and or scope, but I have a feeling it's going to affect scope. They may have wanted bigger and badder and stuff like that. Well, are you going to continue the Smoke Jaguar thing? Are you going to do a different clan perspective? Are you going to do an Inner Sphere perspective? What are you going to, if sales weren't good of the base product, your first DLC, which you shouldn't have called DLC, it should have just been a free holiday update, which eventually they did, which was Fiasco, which, by the way, that did negatively impact the PR and marketing of the title as well. Especially if you were on the fence, you hadn't heard about it, or maybe you did, and then you see that thing that they were trying to charge people for deals. Bad PR there. I think DLC is going to be pulled back a bit. That's my speculation about it. I think the scope will have to be reined in a little bit. I could be wrong there. The staff let go. I mean, that's almost 40 people out of like 100 some odd people. 108, I think, is what the number was, and reduced. I mean, that's quite a significant downturn. It's not the end of the world, but I think scope is going to get pulled back. I think that the big thing that I'm concerned about, and I hope to have a conversation with Magic Penglove about in the future, is Russ was stated and quoted that the future of the Mechwarrior titles are dependent on the current title doing well. Even though Mercs didn't have the best launch, they didn't lay off a bunch of people. And here we are, the launch of a product, it didn't do well, and they're laying off people. Now, that could be because EG7 wasn't here, and this is forced by EG7 now that they're the owner of the company. That's fair. But it's severe enough that I fear that the future titles outside of just Clans DLC, what is this going to do for the dealings with Microsoft and getting a new license circa 2025 moving forward? Are we going to see a Mechwarrior Online successor or a Mech 6 with PvE, co-op, and online play? Why not bring everybody under the roof? I have a feeling that this is going to impact that unless they have a phenomenal return on investment on DLCs and really hit, nail it out of the park here. I don't think this is a good look. And I'm trying not to be hyperbolic about this. I don't think it's Piranha's the doom call, if you will. Not at all. But I think what it's going to do is it's going to affect what they're able to put out and the scope of something. So whatever they have planned for the first actual DLC, is that going to impact the scope of that? And then, okay, so they put out 2-3 DLCs. Let's just say 2 in 2025, some pretty big ones, because you're going to have to put in some time. What does that mean for the future of, online play and the future? So if you're like me, I have wanted an online game. I feel like the online community has sort of been pushed aside. We had Mercs, we had all the DLCs for Mercs. Now we get Clans, and obviously we're going to get DLCs. None of that has to do with the online play. MWO is now effectively severely cut as far as the masses. Darren's gone. Now, granted, he wasn't a direct developer, so you could argue that. But Krasdax, who also, I believe Kraz helped with Clans as far as that, but he was MWO's only map designer. So now, effectively, you have Matt Newman, who is still there, and you have Tios, who is still there, and that's it. That's all we have as far as MWO. So if you're a Mechwarrior Online player, we hate to, is this the death toll? I think we've been in the status quo for a while. That's why I asked Russ on the latest podcast, is the status quo with support towards MWO? And he said yes. That has now been cut into half. Even if you were just to look at Tios and Kraz being the developers, it's cut in half. So my concern is, again, moving forward, and what this means. Obviously, I'm going to still play MWO. I love the gameplay. I love the gameplay loop. I love the people I play with. I love interacting with all of you guys. So again, if you like that type of thing, make sure to tune in on the streams. I just have concerns with this. Now, outside of that, the they're not gone. I do have belief that they're going to release mod tools hopefully soon. If you're listening, PGI, that'd be great. The reason I say that is I will be spearheading mod project or mod projects on clans, and I'm gonna try to pool resources together with everybody out there in the community to create some stuff, whether that's online. Obviously they already have a, Solaris style where you can shoot each other, so that networking capability is there. But something more than that. I don't know what the future is going to be as far as the Piranha Games and future titles. I don't think this is the death knell as far as the Piranha's output of games. I do think it's very concerning. I do think it's going to impact scope of DLCs. And per Russ's statement of, and Darren's, actually, I think it's Darren's statement, as he said, every DLC makes a little bit less than the previous one. And considering what they did as far as level production for clans, animations, and mocap, is that going to affect this? I don't know. I think it will. But yeah, man, some pretty big news here. I was not expecting layoffs. I didn't expect layoffs. I didn't think clans did all too well in the grand scheme of things, but here we are. So I'm going to go leave with questions with you guys. How do you feel about this? Why do you feel, in the comments down below, that clans didn't do well? Was it because of lack of marketing? That's another big thing. Was it just the lack of innovation? I mean, like I said, storytelling was great, but also there was no variation. There was no being able to roam around. There was no tactical options. The gameplay was literally mercs. It's literally mercs. Actually, it's a little bit different than mercs because of the omnipods, but as far as gameplay, like you pewing and shooting stuff, it's basically mercs. And there's not a whole lot of tactical options. There's not really any strategy, just like mercs. It's just throw bodies at you. Was it was it all the above? Was it you didn't want to play clans? You were like, I'm a spheroid and merc, and why am I having to play Smoke Jaguar? Really like to know, so let me know down in the comments. I'll definitely check up on those and see what you guys thought. If you guys would agree with me, do you disagree? Did you absolutely love the game? Let me know down in the comments, and like I said, I'll be sure to check those out. If any more information comes out as far as DLCs from Piranha, I will be updating you guys as soon as possible. Yeah, this is not a fun video to make, but I feel like it's an important discussion of at least my opinion of breakdown of why I think it didn't do well, what this potentially means for not only future Mechwarrior products, but also the online play, which I feel like, again, the online community has really got the short end of the stick. And if by any chance, Russ, you're listening to this, look, man, all of us want you guys to succeed. But I do feel, and you may get irritated every single time I ask about MWO, that your online community is just basically just waiting for you guys to do something. And your company right now was able to get lifted up to where it's at because of Mechwarrior Online. And you've been doing your own thing with mercs and now clans. But just remember, what got you there in the first place was the community that, PvP and the online community. And we do feel neglected, at least I do, as far as a player, not as a person. And maybe there's something to that. I don't know what that means, but yeah. On that note, I'll see you guys on the next video. Until next time. No Guts, No Galaxy hats are now available at nogutsnogalaxy.net. Get yours today.